Welcome to Exit Your Matrix. I'm Brad Villers. We continue to work our way through a review and discussion of Larken Rose's book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, and last time we hit pay dirt with his introduction of natural law, which I maintain is arguably the most fundamental principle in the discovery of truth. We're going to pick up from last time with Rose having introduced some widely espoused and well-known notions that he puts in the category of mythology. So let's begin with a question. If the things that have been drilled into the American brain, that we are the government, that the government works for us, and that the government represents us, then we can demonstrate how government turns the very obvious wants of the overwhelming majority of this country into reality, right? Oh, I know. You saw that one coming because you and I are both well aware that's just a bunch of poppycock. Oppressive taxes, military campaigns based on admitted lies, nonstop surveillance, law enforcement overreach. These are but a few of the examples of things that we have absolutely zero influence over. And for those sad souls riding the short bus of consciousness who actually believe in that cult ritual called voting, a special message is ahead for them when we get to the truth of representative government here in just a bit. Despite the observable truth that we're nothing short of tax cattle, practically from birth we've been fed a steady diet of this notion that the people are in charge. Right. So let's get more granular and take a look at a particular one of these, that the government works for us, from a vantage point most people can easily relate to, and that's the workplace. So in this twisted pseudo-reality we've been indoctrinated to believe, we're the employer and the government is the employee. But how is it that our employee dictates to us what we, the alleged employer, can and cannot do, including to and with our own bodies, and employs millions of people to create, enact, and enforce so-called laws that are of its choosing? And don't forget that the money those soulless order followers accept comes by way of theft from you and me in the form of taxes. Mythology indeed. Rose puts it very simply like this, quote, "To imagine that a ruler could ever be the servant of those over whom he rules is patently absurd. You moron," shouts the defender of democracy. "Don't you realize that lurking under every bed in this great land is the hate-filled heart of some terrorist looking to snuff out the one thing that guarantees our freedom? Representative government?" Rose answers, quote, "One who represents someone else cannot have more rights than one he represents. And, in the case of government, the people whom the politicians claim to represent have no right to do anything that politicians do. Impose taxes, enact laws, etc. Average citizens have no right to forcibly control the choices of their neighbors, then tell them how to live their lives, and punish them if they disobey. So when a government does such things, it is not representing anyone or anything but itself." He goes on to another problem that I really hadn't thought much about, and that's this unique feature of those who government claims to represent having absolutely no interest in accepting responsibility for the actions it takes on their behalf. Quote, "If their candidate of choice enacts a harmful law, or raises taxes, or wages war, the voters never feel the same guilt or shame they would feel if they themselves had personally done such things, or had hired or instructed someone else to do such things." Our author introduces the next issue with this. In their attempts to justify the existence of a ruling class, government, statists often describe perfectly reasonable, legitimate, useful things, and then proclaims them to be government. He goes on to describe the incorrect attribution of the term government to people engaging in cooperative interaction in things like organizing a system of mutual defense, or devising ways to build roads, or engaging in commerce, or agreeing on how property rights will work. All of those things can and have happened, but, as I pointed out before, they all rely on consent and voluntary engagement. What makes them government is when some individual or group dictates to others how, when, and where those things will be accomplished. Finally, Rose introduces what he calls the excuse of necessity with this, quote, "The excuse that statists, those who believe in government, often resort to in the end is that humanity requires government, that society needs rulers, that someone has to be in charge, or there would be constant chaos and bloody mayhem. But necessity, whether real or imagined, cannot make a mythical entity real. He closes part 1 of the book by relaying that, quote, we cannot conjure something into existence by sheer willpower. And I love this next image. If you jump out of a plane without a parachute, your need for it is not going to make one materialize. All of these ideas are completely antithetical to what we've been taught, but when we come to terms with the fact that they have merit, deeper, more disconcerting questions linger. With the most fundamental being why we have ignored our remarkable ability to reason and engage our imaginations, and instead fallen for the indoctrination of belief in the legitimacy of authority, and, as a result, that submitting to government is the best way to pursue our individual and collective goals. But with all of that said, I'm sure we all have a pressing Netflix series to get caught up on, or a ball game to watch, or some news story to wring our hands over. So many things clamoring for the ever-shortening attention span. But thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. And I haven't said it in quite a while, but always remember to do your own thinking. Be well.